There are seasons in life when it feels like everything is crashing in at once. Pressures from society, echoes from your past, and the weight of an uncertain future. Your heart pounds, your thoughts race, and your soul quivers. But hear me today, if you truly long to receive the deepest desires of your heart, you must grasp the divine secret so many forget. Rest, be still within. Quiet your soul before the Lord. For in that sacred stillness, in that holy pause, you open the way for God's power to move mountains for you. The world urges you to strive, to fight, to seize what you want. Yet God, in His wisdom, often calls us to the opposite path, to step aside, to release control, to trust Him enough to take over. Because true strength isn't born in restless striving, it's found in surrendered stillness. It's rooted in the quiet assurance that God knows who you are, knows what you need, and knows the perfect moment to deliver it. You don't need to drain your soul chasing what God has already prepared for you. When you relax, when you rest in the assurance of His will, you open the door for miracles. You unlock blessings that no effort could ever achieve. The most powerful position in life is the one on your knees. Not begging, but trusting. Not striving, but surrendering. Many are running, clawing, competing, comparing, constantly moving from one goal to another, yet never satisfied. They're chasing money, relationships, recognition, and they believe that only through endless effort will they succeed. But the soul is not built to carry that kind of pressure. It is only when we pause and realign with God that we realize what matters most. Was never far. It was waiting for us to be still. If the heart is restless, nothing you gain will ever satisfy. But when your heart is at peace with God, even the smallest thing becomes a blessing. The greatest treasures of life, peace, favor, purpose, fulfillment, are not taken by force. They are received in faith. Some of you have been praying for years, waiting, hoping, fasting, pleading. But I ask you today, have you tried relaxing in the presence of God? Have you tried letting go of your anxious grip and simply telling Him, God, I trust you? Because sometimes the answer doesn't come through your intensity, it comes through your peace. Sometimes God waits for you to stop running so He can begin moving. Sometimes the door won't open until you stop banging on it and quietly sit before it in faith, knowing that if it's meant to be yours, God Himself will turn the key. There is a holy kind of rest that is not laziness, not apathy, but divine confidence. It says, even if nothing changes today, I know God is working. I know He's aligning the right people, the right opportunities, the right timing. That kind of rest is powerful. That kind of rest releases angels. That kind of rest brings clarity. Because when your spirit is calm, you begin to hear the voice of God more clearly. Not the voice of fear, not the voice of culture, but the voice of purpose and direction. Look around at nature. The rivers do not rush anxiously, yet they reach their destination. The stars do not compete to shine, yet each holds its place in the heavens. The sun does not rise early or late, yet it brings light to the world every single day. God has built balance and order into everything He created, and you, who are made in His image, are not meant to live in panic and pressure. You are meant to live in divine alignment. There is power in calm. There is glory in rest. There is victory in trust. And trust is what it all comes down to. Do you trust that God has your back? Do you believe that He's not just watching from a distance, but orchestrating things in your favor? Because if you do, then you don't need to chase after what's already chasing you. Favor follows faith. Breakthroughs follow belief. When you relax in the presence of God, you position yourself to receive what is already yours in the Spirit. You stop striving for crumbs and begin preparing for the feast He's been setting in your honor. But if your hands are full of worry, how will you receive what He is trying to place in them? Many people lose what was meant for them simply because they didn't know how to be still. They rushed ahead. They tried to force it. They let fear dictate their pace. But faith is not afraid to wait. Faith is not afraid to rest. Faith knows that when God moves, no man can stop Him. And when God says now, nothing can delay Him. That's why when you relax, not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, you activate a heavenly force that goes before you, making crooked paths straight and turning impossible situations into testimonies. Some of you are tired, not because you've worked too much, but because you've trusted too little. You've placed the weight of your future on your own shoulders, forgetting that it is God who carries you. Relax. Let Him lift it. Let Him handle what you cannot. Stop trying to control what was never in your hands to begin with. That relationship, hand it to God. That job, hand it to God. That dream that seems so far off, hand it to God. And then breathe. Breathe knowing that the one who created the universe is not confused about your life. There is a kind of peace that comes when you stop begging for signs and start believing in the unseen. When you know that God is not slow, He is strategic. When you believe that the delays are not denials, but divine development. Sometimes God is preparing you for the blessing just as much as He is preparing the blessing for you. And if you receive it too early, it may crush you. That's why He says, be still. That's why He tells you to wait. Not because He's forgotten you, but because He's perfecting what concerns you. The world honors those who never rest. They call them hustlers. But heaven honors those who rest in God. They are called the faithful. And the faithful always inherit the promise. They don't miss it. They don't lose it because they understand this one truth. When you stop trying to force your way, God makes a way. And His way is always better. His way doesn't bring burnout, it brings peace. His way doesn't lead to emptiness, it leads to overflow. But it starts with trust. It starts with surrender. It starts with relaxing the grip of fear and picking up the mantle of faith. You've cried enough. You've worried enough. You've begged long enough. Now is the time to rest in God, to lean into Him like never before, to say, God, You see what I cannot. You know what I do not. So I will stop wrestling and I will start resting. And I promise you this, when you relax in Him, He begins to work for you in ways you could never imagine. The closed doors begin to open. The lost opportunities begin to return. The broken pieces begin to form a masterpiece, not because you forced it, but because you trust it. And trust is never passive. It is the most powerful action a soul can take. Trusting God is not doing nothing, it is doing the most. It's declaring to the heavens and to every enemy of your destiny that you believe that no matter what the world says, you are anchored in the unseen. That your confidence is not in what you have, but in who has you. And when you live like that, when you walk with that kind of peace, everything changes. You don't just survive, you thrive. You don't just get through, you rise above. God has not called you to carry every burden. He has called you to cast it. And when you do, when you release what's in your hands, He releases what's in His. And what He holds is far greater than anything you could ever build with your own effort. That's why the most anointed people are not the busiest. They are the most surrendered. They understand the power of letting go. They know the secret of divine flow, that everything they need will come not when they chase it, but when they align with the rhythm of God. When you truly relax in your soul, you begin to see that life is not a race to be won, but a journey to be aligned with the will of God. Every moment, every delay, every unanswered question becomes part of a greater orchestration. God does not operate on the chaotic timelines of this world. He moves according to divine design, eternal timing, and perfect knowledge. While you fret about what you do not yet have, God is preparing what you are not yet ready to receive. And so He teaches you, not through speed, but through stillness, not through noise, but through silence. That's why learning to relax in God is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is spiritual maturity. It is the recognition that God's silence is not absence, it is preparation. There is a storm that brews in the heart of every human being who thinks they must do it all, fix it all, be it all. That storm is fueled by fear, anxiety, pride, and doubt. But God never created you to live in the eye of that storm. He called you to stand above it. And the only way to rise above the chaos is to anchor yourself in divine trust. That trust is not loud, it is quiet and unwavering. It is the voice within you that says, even if I don't see the way, God is making the way. Even if I feel alone, God is closer than my breath. Even if I don't understand, God knows exactly what He's doing. It is in this posture of trust where transformation begins. Your thoughts shift from worry to worship. Your mind moves from panic to peace, and your steps begin to align with divine timing. The reason so many people feel like they're constantly hitting walls is not because the path is wrong, but because the pace is wrong. God never asks you to run ahead of His will. He asks you to walk with Him, to listen, to rest, to obey. And sometimes that obedience looks like doing nothing but waiting. Waiting with faith, waiting with peace, waiting with a heart fully surrendered. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. The delay you face is not a rejection. It is a sacred pause, a divine intermission where God rearranges everything for your benefit. And if you fight the stillness, you may miss the direction. Because often God will not shout above your noise. He will wait until you are quiet enough to hear Him. This is why you must relax, not just physically, but spiritually. You must stop carrying the burdens that belong to God. He does not need your worry, He needs your worship. He does not require your stress. He asks for your surrender. There is a weight that lifts when you say, God, this is too much for me, so I give it to you. And when you mean it, when you truly release it, something miraculous happens. Doors open, burdens lift, and paths that were once blocked become clear, not because you fought harder, but because you let God fight for you. You see, many blessings are held back not because God is withholding, but because you haven't made room for them. Your hands are too full of fear. Your schedule is too packed with noise. Your heart is too burdened with self-reliance. But when you relax, when you clear the clutter of anxiety, God rushes in. He is not impressed by how much you can carry. He is moved by how much you're willing to lay down. The most powerful people in the world are not the ones who shout the loudest or work the hardest, but those who are in perfect alignment with the will of God. And that alignment comes through peace. A peace that says, God, I trust you more than I trust my understanding. I choose rest over worry, surrender over striving, patience over panic. That is the kind of heart God honors. That is the kind of spirit He blesses. Look back at your life. The moments where you were the most anxious, the most desperate, the most restless, did they bring you peace, or did they drain your spirit? Now look at the moments where you let go, where you said, God, if this is your will, then I surrender to it. Weren't those the moments when everything began to shift? When things started to fall into place, not because of your effort, but because of your surrender. That is the sacred pattern of faith. Let go and let God lead. And remember, relaxing in God does not mean giving up on your dreams. It means trusting that God is the keeper of those dreams. It means believing that what is meant for you will not miss you, and what misses you was never meant for you. God's plans are not fragile. His timing is not flawed. His blessings do not require your manipulation. They require your trust. So stop trying to control what only God can orchestrate. Stop tying yourself to outcomes. Detach from the need to understand everything and anchor yourself in the knowledge that God understands everything. There is a place in the soul where anxiety cannot survive. It is the place where you meet God face to face, not in the noise of performance, but in the quiet of trust. There you are reminded that you are not what you do, not what you have, not what people say about you. You are who God created you to be, fearfully, wonderfully, purposefully made. You don't need to chase validation. You don't need to impress the world. You need only to rest in your Creator. And when you do, a peace descends like rain on a dry land, a peace that cleanses, restores, and renews. Let God renew you. Let Him strengthen you, not through constant activity, but through divine rest. Stop trying to outrun the process. Stop comparing your pace to others. What God is doing in your life is unique. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where God needs you to be. And even if you feel stuck, even if you feel like nothing is moving, understand this: God does His greatest work in stillness, silence, in the soil where nothing seems to be growing, but deep roots are forming beneath the surface. And yet there are those who still believe that peace is only for the privileged, that rest is for the lazy, that stillness is for those who've given up. But I declare to you with every fiber of conviction, peace is for the obedient. Stillness is for the wise. Rest is for the one who trusts that God is enough. You do not rest because the journey is over. You rest because you know who walks with you. You relax not because the battle is finished, but because you know that the battle is not yours, but God's. And when you truly believe that, your soul stops shaking, your hands unclench, your eyes lift not to the problem, but to the provider. What the world teaches you is to grind, to press, to push harder when things get tough. But what God teaches is that when the load gets heavier, you go lower. You humble yourself. You submit the pressure at His feet. You say, God, if you brought me this far, you won't leave me now. If you opened one door, you will open another. When you walk in faith, you're not walking alone. When you rest in God, you're not being passive. You're declaring spiritual war against the forces that want you to burn out, give up, and forget your purpose. Relaxing in God is not ignoring your responsibilities. It is doing them with a heart that is not ruled by fear. It's applying for that job, but trusting that God decides the outcome. It's taking care of your family, but knowing that God is your ultimate sustainer. It's showing up every day not to impress the world, but to honor the one who gave you life. That kind of relaxation does not lead to laziness. It leads to clarity. You stop to see where your energy should go. You stop trying to control everything and start moving only where God leads. Some of you are exhausted because you've been trying to do God's job. You've been playing the role of the provider, the protector, the planner, the judge. But there is only one who holds that authority. And when you release your false control, when you step down from the throne of your own life and let God sit where He belongs, peace returns like a river. Then and only then do you begin to see that you were never meant to fix it all. You were meant to trust the one who can. Do you know why you haven't seen your breakthrough yet? It's not because God has forgotten you. It's because you've been blocking what He wants to send by holding too tightly to your version of the plan. You're so focused on what you think it should look like that you're missing what He's trying to give you. But when you relax, when you let your heart breathe and say, God, do it your way, you allow the unseen to take form. You allow destiny to align with divine timing. You let go of counterfeit blessings to make room for the real ones. And yes, there will be moments where you'll be tempted to take matters into your own hands again. You look at others who seem ahead, and the urge to panic will rise up. But hear me clearly, comparison is the thief of peace. The moment you take your eyes off what God is doing in you and start focusing on what He's doing in them, you lose your rhythm. And when you lose your rhythm, you start forcing things. And when you start forcing things, you fall out of favor. Because God blesses order, not chaos. You don't need to worry about who's getting married before you, who's getting richer before you, who's getting recognized before you. God didn't forget you. He's preserving you. Because what He has for you is not common. It's not ordinary. It's not quick or cheap. It's custom made, and anything custom takes time. So stop fighting the process and start trusting the Creator. Stop running after everything and let the right things start running toward you. This is not the time to panic. This is the time to plant yourself deeper in trust. Because when your roots are in God, your leaves will not wither in the heat of delay. When your foundation is in the Almighty, no storm will shake you. And when your eyes are fixed on God, you will see what others miss. You will hear the quiet instructions, the divine nudges, the sacred whispers that lead you to places no map can guide you. That's the reward of rest. Clarity. God doesn't shout over noise. He whispers to the still. Let me ask you this. What would happen if you truly believe that nothing good would ever pass you by? That anything meant for you would find you? Not when you're stressed, not when you're anxious, but when you are at peace with God's pace. That's not fantasy. That's the promise of those who walk in surrender. They may not move the fastest, but they always end up exactly where they were meant to be, because their steps are not based on pressure. They are based on divine instruction. So yes, relax. Let people think you're being too calm. Let them wonder why you're not rushing like everyone else. Let them question your peace. Because when your breakthrough comes, and it will, they'll understand. They'll see that your calm was not foolishness. It was faith. They'll realize that your peace was not passivity. It was power. Because God always defends those who place their trust in Him. He always honors the ones who wait on Him. And waiting is never weakness. Waiting is preparation. A farmer doesn't pull up the seed each day to see if it's growing. He waters it, he tends to it, and he trusts the process. That's exactly what your waiting is accomplishing. It's watering your faith, building your endurance, shaping your character, so that when the harvest arrives, you won't just receive it, you'll carry it well. Because every gift from God comes with preparation. That's why rushing can never produce what resting will. Rest proves your readiness. When anxiety takes over, you lose sight of who God is. You shrink the Creator of the heavens down to the size of your impatience. But when you choose peace, you lift God higher. You exalt His power above your need. You lift His will above your worry. And that's when doors swing open. That's when favor follows. That's when heaven moves. Not because you shouted the loudest, but because you trusted the deepest. You don't need to convince God to bless you. You just need to get in position to receive. And the position is peace. The posture is surrender. The expression is trust. That's where the real power is. That's the secret. Most people never discover that the most successful, the most fulfilled, the most anointed people are not always the busiest. They are the most rested in God. They move with purpose. They walk in wisdom. They don't chase, they attract, because they are aligned. And alignment always beats ambition. And now I tell you, there is a deeper revelation that comes when you truly make peace with God's pace. It's not just about relaxing your body or even calming your thoughts. It's about entering into a sacred dimension of trust where you realize the timing is not yours, it is God's. The timing of your promotion, the timing of your healing, the timing of your vindication. All of it is governed not by chance, not by coincidence, but by the hands of the Almighty, who sees the end from the beginning and the beginning from the end. You must stop living like life is something you have to figure out on your own. You were never created to carry the burden of your own destiny. God didn't design you to be the architect of every detail. You are not God. You are His creation. And your greatest strength will be found in the moment you truly accept this truth. You are not in control. And that's the most freeing thing you will ever realize. Because once you release the illusion of control, God can begin to reveal the divine orchestration already taking place behind the curtain of your circumstances. Let me tell you, there are blessings already in motion that your eyes have not yet seen. There are solutions to problems that haven't even reached you yet. There are provisions being built in secret, not because of your performance, but because of your positioning. And the position God requires is not a frantic hustle, it's faith. Not inaction, but alignment. Because it's possible to be busy and still be disobedient. It's possible to be active and still be far from the will of God. But when your spirit is in tune with His direction, your steps become strategic, your words become anointed, and your rest becomes a weapon. You see, the enemy wants to steal your rest because he knows that in rest, your discernment becomes sharp. In rest, your hearing becomes clear. In rest, your spirit becomes sensitive to God's movement. That's why so many are agitated, confused, doubtful. It's not because they don't have access to God. It's because they haven't created the silence necessary to hear Him. But when you quiet the distractions, when you turn down the volume of fear, when you detach from the endless noise of comparison and anxiety, you begin to hear something deeper, the whisper of destiny. And that whisper doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It doesn't demand that you have all the answers. It simply calls you to trust, to believe that even when the night is long and the way is unclear, God is still working. He is still weaving every delay, every setback, every closed door into something far greater than you imagine. Sometimes what feels like rejection is simply redirection. Sometimes the thing you're begging God to do now is something He's intentionally withholding because He knows what's ahead and He's protecting you. So don't mistake the silence of God for the absence of God. Don't interpret a closed door as a divine no. It might just be a not yet. And if you'll stay in faith, if you'll hold your peace, if you'll relax into the rhythm of trust, you'll see that the very things you thought were being denied are actually being prepared for a more perfect time. God is never early and He is never late. He moves with precision. He answers with perfection. He gives not just what you ask for, but what your soul truly needs. Some of you have cried, "Why haven't I seen it yet? Why is this taking so long? Why do I feel stuck?" And I say to you, it's not because God is turned away. It's because He's building something deeper inside of you. He's teaching you to wait well, to live with expectation, not anxiety, to prepare your inner world to carry what your outer world will soon experience. He's not just working around you, He's working in you. And when the time comes, you won't just receive the blessing, you'll be ready to handle it. Because a blessing given too soon becomes a burden. A door opened too early becomes a trap. And a dream fulfilled without maturity becomes a curse. That's why God is careful. That's why He sometimes says, wait. Not because He delights in your frustration, but because He delights in your future. And if you could see what He's protecting you from, you would thank Him for every delay. If you could glimpse the weight of what's ahead, you'd praise Him for every silent season. Because while you've been asking for what's good, God has been preparing what is best. So I say again, relax, breathe. Let go of the timeline you've built in your head. Let go of the pressure to be where someone else is. Your journey is not theirs. Your timing is not theirs. Your purpose is not theirs. And that's the beauty of it. What God has written for you cannot be stolen, rushed, or missed. The only thing that can delay it is your resistance to rest. When you try to force open what God has closed, you may find yourself drained, discouraged, and distant from the very peace that was promised to you. But the moment you step back, the moment you say, God, I choose your pace over mine, your way over mine, your will above mine, that's when the shift begins. Not always immediately, not always visibly, but spiritually, something breaks open because God honors those who trust Him. He elevates those who wait on Him. He pours out abundance on those who rest under His covering, knowing that in their stillness, He is moving. You want to see miracles? Learn to be still. You want to receive answers? Learn to listen. You want to walk in divine timing? Learn to wait. Not passively, but actively, with praise, with faith, with expectation. Let your relaxation be a declaration of your belief that God is not done with you yet, that what He started, He will finish, that what He promised, He will perform, that what He prepared for you is on its way. Not because you chased it, but because you trusted for it. And when it comes, and it will, you'll look back and realize that every moment you chose peace over panic was a seed that birthed your harvest. Every time you said, I will not worry, I will worship, you move the heavens. Every breath of surrender, every step of obedience, every act of faith brought you closer, not to what you wanted, but to what God always knew you needed. And that, my friend, is where everything changes. And now I urge you to reflect, truly reflect on what it means to rest, not just with your body, but with your spirit, to relax in the depth of your soul. because some of you have grown weary, not from the work of your hands, but from the war in your mind. The constant thoughts, the racing doubts, the whispers of not enough, the echoes of too late, the torment of what if. These are not just mental battles, they are spiritual attacks sent to steal your focus, your confidence, and your peace. But God in His mercy is calling you into a different realm, a higher dimension of trust where anxiety cannot enter and fear cannot speak. You see, peace is not the absence of noise, it is the presence of God within the noise. And when you carry God within you, when your heart is saturated with the knowledge that He is in full control, no storm on the outside can shake the stillness within. The enemy's greatest weapon is not disaster, it is distraction. If he can keep you busy with worry, hurried with fear, and pressed with pressure, he can keep you from hearing what God is whispering. But when you choose stillness, when you choose to relax in God's sovereignty, you render the enemy powerless, because your peace becomes your shield. Your calm becomes your declaration of war against chaos. There is a supernatural order that begins to unfold when you remove your hands from the wheel and say with every fiber of your being, God, I trust you more than I trust myself. That's not weakness, that's wisdom, that's maturity, that's spiritual courage. Because only the brave can truly let go. Only the spiritually mature can choose to rest when the world demands they panic. Only those who truly know God can say, even if everything falls apart around me, I will not be moved, for I am not held up by my circumstances, but by the invisible hand of the Almighty. And I speak this into your spirit. Now some of you have been grinding, striving, praying with clenched fists, fasting with fearful hearts, pushing doors that won't open, and crying out, why is nothing changing? And the answer is this, because you have not yet surrendered the weight. You have given God your words, but not your worry. You have offered Him your praise, but not your pressure. You have spoken of faith, but lived in fear. And God in His divine love is not punishing you, He is inviting you to a rest so deep, so sacred, so holy, that it shifts your entire atmosphere. When you enter that rest, you stop begging and start believing. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop surviving and start thriving, not because life became easier, but because your soul became anchored. Anchored in the truth that God is not watching your life unfold like a spectator. He is writing it like a master author. Every chapter, every page, every punctuation mark is intentional. Nothing is random, nothing is wasted, and nothing is outside of His reach. The pain, the delay, the heartbreak, the confusion, it's all being used, being molded, being transformed into something far greater than your finite mind can grasp. And yes, I know you've waited. I know you've questioned. I know you've wondered if God even hears you. But I declare to you today, He hears, He sees, and He is nearer than you think. But sometimes He waits for your silence before He speaks. Sometimes He waits for your surrender before He sends. Sometimes the greatest answer is not in what He gives, but in what He takes. The burden, the fear, the lie that you have to earn what He has already prepared. God is not withholding from you out of cruelty. He is holding it back because He's perfecting the vessel that must carry the blessing. He knows what you don't. He sees what you can't. And when you try to take what is not yet ready, you rob yourself of the fullness of what was meant to be. That's why the command is simple. Be still. That's not a suggestion. That's not a motivational quote. That is a divine instruction. that holds the power to unlock what has been locked for years. There are things in your life that are not broken. They are just paused. They are on divine hold while God finishes what you cannot see. And the moment you stop fighting the delay and start trusting the delay is the moment the spiritual tides begin to turn. God does not operate in panic. He is not hurried. And if you are made in His image, neither should you be. Learn to walk with the calm of someone who knows that everything they need is already in motion. Learn to rest like one who knows their name is written in the plan of God. Because when you trust God deeply, you begin to live differently. You don't speak from fear, you speak from faith. You don't act from desperation, you act from direction. You don't run after every opportunity, you wait for the one that has your name on it. And when people ask, "Why are you so calm?" you'll say, "Because I know who holds my life. I know who guides my steps. And I know that what's meant for me will never pass me by." Let me tell you, the greatest victories are not always loud. Sometimes the greatest victory is peace in a storm, a calm spirit in a world that's spiraling, a heart that smiles in the waiting. That's when the enemy knows he's lost. When you're not shaken by what should have shaken you. When you're not bitter about what you lost because you know God will restore better. When you're not afraid of what's ahead because you know God has already gone before you. And when you reach that level of trust, your prayers begin to change. They're no longer frantic. They're filled with quiet confidence. You no longer cry out in panic. You speak with authority knowing you are heard. Your faith is no longer conditional. It's unwavering. You don't just believe when things go right. You believe when nothing makes sense. Because your hope is not in outcomes, it's in God Himself. And that I will move when you say move. I will speak when you say speak. Until then, I will rest in your plan. Because peace is power, rest is strategy, and surrender is the highest form of strength. When you master these, when you truly relax into the arms of the Almighty, you won't just receive the things you prayed for, you'll become the person He created you to be. Not a product of panic, but a vessel of peace. Not a captive of fear, but a warrior of trust. And when you walk like that, talk like that, live like that, the world takes notice, because the light of a relaxed, God-centered soul cannot be ignored. And now let this truth be written on the tablets of your heart. When your spirit truly rests in God, the world no longer has power over you. The timelines of society, the expectations of others, the lies of fear, they begin to lose their grip because you've anchored your hope in something eternal, something immovable, something no eye can see and no hand can alter. The will of God Almighty. That will is not vague. That will is not uncertain. It is deliberate. It is sovereign. It is unstoppable. And when you align your soul with that will, the chaos outside may rage, but the calm within will stand unshaken. Do not mistake silence from God as inactivity. When you see no movement, God is moving the most. His greatest works are not always performed in the open. They begin deep beneath the surface of your life, where pride is broken and character is built. You may want the blessing now, but God is more concerned with preparing you to carry it. And in that preparation, He calls you to relax. Not because the journey is over, but because He's taken the weight off your shoulders and placing it onto His own. He never designed you to carry everything. He designed you to trust. In a world that glorifies busy, God glorifies balance. In a culture that tells you to run, God may ask you to wait. Because the fastest path is not always the right one. The loudest voices are not always speaking truth. And the most visible victories are not always rooted in divine favor. But when you rest in God, you begin to see through the fog of pressure. You begin to recognize the quiet path that leads to true fulfillment. Not worldly noise, but divine nourishment. In mute, God is not moved by panic. He is moved by trust. And when you stop shouting in desperation and start sitting in expectation, that's when the shift happens. That's when what was held back is released. That's when what you thought was lost returns in ways that only God could orchestrate. Because when you let go of your grip, you give room for God's hands to work. When you sit down in surrender, you rise up in strength. Let us not be the people who panic at every delay. Let us not be the ones who think silence means abandonment. God does not forsake the ones who wait on Him. In fact, it is often in the waiting where He reveals the deepest truths. He peels back the layers of impatience and fear until what remains is pure faith. A heart that no longer needs signs to believe. A soul that no longer needs speed to feel secure. A mind that no longer needs answers to walk forward. Some of the greatest blessings come wrapped in stillness. The kind of stillness that breaks chains. The kind of stillness that silences the voice of the enemy. The kind of stillness that says, I don't need to see the whole staircase. I just need to trust the one who built it. That's faith. And faith doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. It waits. It listens. It knows that God is faithful. And if He said He will do it, He will. But so many today are trapped in the illusion of doing. They think their value is in their hustle. They believe their worth is in their results. And in doing so, they exhaust themselves, burn out their spirits, and disconnect from the very source that sustains them. God does not need your performance. He desires your presence. He does not ask for your perfection. He asks for your peace. That peace is not found in finishing every task or fixing every problem. It is found in knowing that God is already ahead of you, working on your behalf, orchestrating what your eyes have not yet seen. Even in the darkest of nights, when you feel alone, forgotten, and overwhelmed, know this: God is closest in your calm. He draws near, not when you strive, but when you still your soul before Him. That's when you feel His strength. That's when you hear His voice. That's when you realize you were never walking alone, not even for a second. But the noise of your anxiety was drowning out His comfort. The fire of your worry was clouding His guidance. And the clutter of your thoughts was closing the door to His instruction. But when you quiet your soul, you open the door again. And when that door opens, divine clarity floods in. You begin to see that your delays were not detours. They were doors being installed at the right time. You begin to understand that what felt like silence was a sacred setup. That what looked like a loss was actually liberation from what would have harmed you. God does not misplace His children. He does not forget their prayers. He collects every tear, hears every whisper, and watches over every step. And if you're willing to be still, you will begin to see the pattern emerge. How every piece of your pain was leading to purpose. How every setback was shaping your strength. Yes, life has its storms. Yes, there will be trials. But when your soul is anchored in God, even the winds must obey. Even the waves must submit. Peace is not found in the absence of storms. It is found in the presence of God within the storm. And once you know that kind of peace, the world loses its hold on you. You stop chasing people who walked away. You stop fearing opportunities you missed. You stop regretting what's behind and start rejoicing in what's ahead. Because your future is not in the hands of chance, it's in the hands of God. And those hands do not fail. And so I say to you again, relax, not as an escape, but as an entrance into a deeper dimension of trust. Relax your mind. Let go of the outcomes. Relax your heart. Stop fighting what God is working on. Relax your body. Your exhaustion is not a sign of failure, it's a call back to divine rest. Let your whole being return to the place where strength is born, not from striving, but from surrender. Because when you relax, you allow God to show you who He truly is. Not a distant power, not a harsh ruler, but a thoughtful, caring Creator who gently directs every beat of your heart. He's not holding you back with silence. He's preparing you for something greater. And the moment you stop resisting that truth is the moment you'll begin to live in it. Let the world drown itself in noise. Let others chase after life in fear. But you choose to be still and believe. Believe that God is God. Believe that He is more than enough. Believe that He can be trusted. And in that belief, everything begins to fall into place. New doors will swing open. Courage will rise. Calm will overflow. And the very blessings you once struggled for will begin to flow toward you. Because when you walk with God, what belongs to you will come without force. When God intends for you to be with someone, creation itself responds in ways beyond human understanding. The wind carries a new melody. The heavens align with divine order. And the timing unfolds so perfectly that you know it cannot be chance. It is not luck. It is the very hand of God directing your path. And if you have ever wondered whether your journey was meant to intertwine with another's, if you have ever found yourself standing where love and destiny meet, lean in. Because when God is the one writing the story, nothing can interrupt it. A deep peace settles within your soul. With God at the center, you don't need to force it. You don't need to chase after it. You don't need to plead for anyone to remain. When the Lord ordains a union, it flows naturally. It breathes life. It grows in grace. Anxiety does not exist in the will of God. There is only certainty. If your heart has been shattered by those who failed to see your value, if you have endured lonely seasons thinking God overlooked you, hear this truth. God's delay was never meant to wound you. He was preparing you. He was preparing the other person. Because divine timing requires divine molding. When God wants you with someone, He'll first isolate you. He'll pull you away from distractions, from toxic attachments, from what your flesh wants, so that your spirit can begin to discern what is truly sent by Him. He will break down your own desires until your will aligns with His. That is why some relationships had to fall apart. That is why some people walked away. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. God removes what is not meant for your destiny so you can receive what is designed to build you, bless you, and bring you closer to Him. And you must understand, when God chooses someone for you, it will not always look how you imagined. It will not always come in the package you were praying for. But it will come with a peace you never knew existed. It will challenge you to become better. It will push you toward purpose, not pull you into confusion. Because God is not the author of chaos. He is the architect of harmony. When He connects two souls, it's not based on shallow attraction or fleeting emotion. It's based on spiritual alignment, purpose, and divine order. There are signs, oh yes, undeniable signs when God is drawing two lives together. He will give you clarity. He will confirm it through His Word, through your prayers, through your peace. You won't have to second guess it day and night. You won't have to sacrifice your dignity to keep it. When God wants you with someone, it will never require you to lower your standards or compromise your values. It will lift you up. It will make you want to be more obedient, more prayerful, more aligned with your Creator. That's the power of a divine connection. It brings you closer to God, not further away. And don't think for 1 second that you have to manipulate your way into someone's life. When God ordains it, you won't have to beg to be loved. You won't have to perform to be accepted. You won't have to compete to be chosen. The one God has for you will recognize you in the Spirit. They will see your worth not just in your words, but in your walk. And the connection will be deeper than appearance, deeper than worldly things. It will be a soul-deep recognition, a knowing that this is who you are meant to walk with through the fire and the favor. God is not random. He is strategic. He places people in your life at specific times for specific purposes. Some are there to teach you, to stretch you, to test you. But when He wants someone to stay, nothing you do can push them away. And when He wants someone to go, no amount of pleading can make them remain. That is why you must trust Him, not just with your heart, but with your path. He sees what you don't. He hears conversations you can't. He knows motives before they are exposed. And when He wants to protect you, He will block certain people from accessing your spirit. No matter how much you think you want them, you may feel like you're running out of time. You may feel like everyone else is finding their person and you're being left behind. But hear me, delay does not mean denial. God's timing is not man's timing. He doesn't operate on your calendar. He moves according to purpose. He moves when your heart is ready to receive the blessing, not just crave it. And sometimes He waits until you stop idolizing companionship and start prioritizing His presence. Because until God becomes your first love, every other relationship will become a source of distraction, not direction. When God wants you with someone, He will speak to them just as clearly as He speaks to you. He will not be one-sided. He will not be full of confusion. God is a God of confirmation. And He will show you through their actions, their intentions, their prayers, their pursuit. And you will not have to wonder where you stand. You will not have to live in a cycle of hot and cold. There will be consistency. There will be integrity. There will be peace. And peace is one of the clearest signs that God is in something, because wherever He is, peace follows. Do not be deceived by emotions alone. Emotions can be misleading. They rise and fall. They are subject to mood, to loneliness, to insecurity. But when God is behind it, it goes deeper than feelings. It is rooted in truth. It is sustained by faith. It is built on trust. You will feel it in your spirit before you feel it in your skin. It will bear fruit that glorifies God, not fruit that feeds your ego. And it will strengthen you for the storms of life, not weaken you in your faith. You may be asking, how do I know if it's truly from God? Listen closely. When it's from God, it will not contradict His principles. It will not pull you into sin. It will not ask you to hide in the shadows or compromise your convictions. It will stand in the light. It will be honorable. It will be protected by prayer and guarded by purity. When God wants you with someone, He will create a foundation that is unshakable. Not perfect, but unshakable. Because the connection will not depend on circumstances. It will depend on covenant. And sometimes God will bring someone into your life and things won't go smoothly at first. There will be trials, there will be distance, there will be seasons of waiting, but do not mistake process for punishment. What God is doing behind the scenes is bigger than what you can see in the present. He may be refining both of you in the fire, so that when He brings you together, the union is strong, refined, and ready to fulfill its divine assignment. Because every God-ordained relationship has a purpose beyond just companionship. It has a mission. It has a spiritual responsibility. That is why you cannot attach yourself to just anyone. The wrong connection can delay your destiny. The wrong person can drain your purpose. Be careful who you align your life with. Not everyone is called to walk beside you. Not everyone is carrying what you need. But when God brings the right person, your strengths will complement one another. Your faith will multiply. Your vision will align. You will sharpen one another, not sabotage each other. You will find that the relationship does not distract you from God, it drives you deeper into His presence. You begin to pray more. You begin to walk in humility. You begin to operate in wisdom. That's how you know it's not just good, it's God. And when it's God, you don't have to fear the future. You don't have to worry about betrayal. Because what God ordains, He sustains. And no weapon formed against it can prosper. No voice raised against it can curse it. When God says yes, no man can say no. Now you must also prepare yourself. Because God is not just working on the other person, He is working on you. You must become the person who can carry what you're praying for. You must be healed from past wounds. You must be free from bitterness. You must walk in forgiveness. Because if you carry old baggage into a new blessing, you will contaminate what God has designed to be pure. Let Him purify your heart. Let Him strip away the ego, the pride, the insecurities. Let Him rebuild you into the person who is ready for love that is rooted in heaven, not earth. And if you've already met someone and you feel the pull, but things seem uncertain, go to God. Not to your friends, not to social media. Take it to the one who sees all. Fast, pray, seek wisdom, ask for discernment, and be willing to walk away if God gives you no peace. Do not hold on to something just because it feels good. Feelings lie, but the Spirit of God does not. If God is not in it, it is not worth it, no matter how beautiful it looks on the outside. But oh, when it is from God, you'll know. You'll feel covered. You'll feel seen. You'll feel safe. You won't have to fear being yourself. You won't have to fight to be valued. You will be loved with a love that reflects the heart of God. And together you will rise. Together you will pray. Together you will walk through valleys and mountaintops with grace and grit. Because when God wants you with someone, He doesn't just bless you with a partner. He gives you a warrior, a teammate, a spiritual covering, a purpose-filled companion who will stand beside you and never let go. When God writes your story, every detail carries eternal weight. Every conversation, every detour, every delay is perfectly placed, not to confuse you, but to craft something greater than your human heart can comprehend. You see, when God aligns your destiny with another, it is not about romance alone. It is about the fulfillment of divine assignment. It is about two souls joining forces, not to please each other, but to glorify the one who created them. The connection God ordains is not rooted in selfish desire. It is born out of spiritual necessity. It is not meant to complete you, but to complement your calling. There is something holy about timing when it is governed by God. You may be ready, but the other person might still be in the process. You may feel eager, but God may still be preparing your character. Because God will not allow what is meant to bless you to come into your life when you are not equipped to handle it. He does not give sacred things to careless hands. He does not join hearts that have not been healed. And so if it seems delayed, it is not rejection, it is protection. It is preservation of something sacred. You must not confuse loneliness with lack. Sometimes God separates you so He can sanctify you. He removes all noise from your life so His voice becomes the loudest. Because when your heart is too entangled in the world, you cannot hear the whispers of heaven. And when God is preparing to place someone in your life by divine design, He requires your ears to be tuned to Him, not your own longing. He wants you to choose with clarity, not craving, to walk in wisdom, not desperation. For God does not bless rushed decisions. He blesses surrendered obedience. When God wants you with someone, He begins to adjust your life so that your purpose aligns with theirs. He will shut doors that seemed promising. He will remove relationships that look stable. He will allow you to feel alone, not to harm you, but to bring you closer to Him. Because only in that solitude do you truly learn that no one can fill your soul like God. And until that lesson is rooted deep within you, every relationship you pursue will fall short, will crumble under pressure, will turn to dust, because no human can carry what only God is meant to uphold in your life. God doesn't just send you what you prayed for. He sends what will grow you. That's why when the right person comes, you will not only feel loved, you will feel stretched. Your comfort zone will be challenged. Your hidden wounds will be revealed for healing. Your faith will be tested and your character refined. And through it all, God will be the center, guiding, correcting, strengthening. Because a God-ordained relationship is not a destination, it is a journey. It is the starting point of a greater assignment. And if you're not willing to walk in truth, to sacrifice, to forgive, to remain faithful, you are not yet ready for what God has planned. This is not about finding someone to make you feel good. This is about God positioning you beside someone who mirrors your values, honors your presence, and joins you in the sacred task of walking upright before the Almighty. When God places someone in your life, they will not pull you into darkness. They will push you into purpose. They will not cause you to hide. They will inspire you to rise. They will not drain your spirit. They will water your soul with truth, with discipline, with encouragement rooted in righteousness. And your union will not only bless you, it will become a testimony to others of what happens when God is the matchmaker. And do not expect perfection. God does not pair perfect people. He pairs purpose-driven people. He brings together those who, though flawed, are willing to surrender to His will. Those who recognize their weaknesses, yet strive daily to walk in humility. And when trials come, and they will, it is not your feelings that will hold you together, but your faith. It is not your emotions that will carry you, but your obedience to the one who brought you together. Because in God-ordained unions, love is not simply a feeling. It is a decision rooted in reverence for God and fueled by commitment to His plan. So be alert. Be watchful. There are many who will come into your life with smooth words and smiling faces, but they are not from God. They are distractions, not destiny. And if you do not have discernment, you will fall for charm and miss the covenant. But when God sends someone, their spirit will confirm what their words proclaim. Their presence will reflect reverence for God, not confusion. Their actions will reflect reverence for God, not just attraction to you. Because when it is God, you won't have to guess. You will know deep down in your soul that this is not ordinary, this is divine. And for those who are weary from waiting, for those who have cried in silence, wondering if God sees your loneliness, know this: God has not forgotten you. Your prayers have not been in vain. Your patience has not gone unnoticed. God honors those who wait on Him. He rewards those who place their trust in His wisdom, not their own timeline. And in the perfect moment, when your heart is ready and your path has been prepared, He will unveil what He has kept hidden for you. And it will be worth every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of longing, because what comes from God comes with peace, with power, with purpose. You must also be willing to let go. Let go of what you thought your future should look like. Let go of the image you created in your mind, because sometimes what we think we want is far smaller than what God has in store. He will exceed your expectations, but you must release your limitations. Stop holding on to people who are not tied to your future. Stop reopening doors that God has sealed shut. Stop chasing those who walk away. God will never allow what is truly yours to miss you. If someone left, they were not assigned to your journey. Do not mourn what was never meant to remain. When God wants you with someone, the connection will be undeniable, but it will also require effort. God may bring the person, but it is your responsibility to walk in love, to serve with humility, to communicate with wisdom. Do not think the presence of God removes the need for discipline. Divine unions demand divine character. They require both parties to grow, to yield, to sacrifice. And when the storms of life come, and they will, you will not be shaken, because your foundation will not be built on temporary feelings, but on eternal truth. This is not a fairy tale. This is a faith walk. And every step must be taken with God leading the way. You will not always understand. You will not always feel secure. But you must trust the one who sees what you cannot. You must believe that His plan is better than your own. Because God does not waste time. He does not make mistakes. If He has promised you something, it will come to pass, not in your time, but in His. And when it does, you will look back and see how every closed door, every painful goodbye, every silent season was preparing you for what your heart could not yet carry. Let your prayers be shaped not by impatience, but by purpose. Instead of asking when, begin to ask what. What do you want to teach me in this season, God? What must I release? What must I strengthen? What must I surrender? Because when your heart is postured in surrender, God can pour out blessings that no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has imagined. And the person He sends will not only be a blessing to your life, they will help you become a blessing to others. There is beauty in waiting. There is power in patience. There is transformation in trusting God. And when that divine connection enters your life, it will not bring more questions than answers. It will bring peace that surpasses understanding. It will bring growth. It will bring alignment. And together you will walk into the future, not hand in hand for your own glory, but united for the glory of God, to fulfill His will and accomplish the assignment that can only be completed through unity. And listen closely. When God truly ordains your steps towards someone, He will not only prepare the way, He will prepare your heart to carry the weight of what's coming. Because love sent by God is not light. It is powerful. It is life-altering. It demands a higher level of discipline, faith, and surrender. It calls you out of selfishness and into sacrifice. And until your heart is willing to serve, not be served, until your soul is anchored in trust, not pride. God will keep molding you in the fire, not to punish you, but to purify you. He's not delaying to destroy your hope. God is waiting because He is enlarging your capacity. You need to see this clearly. When the Lord places someone in your life, it is not to make you comfortable. It is to fulfill His purpose. That relationship comes with responsibility. It carries weight in the spiritual realm. It is not just an emotional bond, it is a divine covenant. And where God's will brings agreement, power is released. Favor will come, but so will opposition. The enemy will attempt to tear down what God is building. That is why your foundation must never rest on a person, but on the God who sent them. Because storms will rise, trials will press in, and if you are not standing on the solid truth of God, what seemed unshakable at first will eventually fall apart. This is why many relationships break down, not because there was no love, but because there was no alignment. They were started from impulse, not from instruction, from attraction, not from assignment. But when it is truly from God, He calls you to be more than a companion. He calls you to safeguard the vision, to stand as a vessel of prayer, and to preserve peace. He will require you to guard the union with your character, not your emotions, because your feelings will lie to you. But God never does. And sometimes God will allow a counterfeit to come before the real one to test your discernment, to see if you truly trust His voice over your own desire. The counterfeit will look the part. They'll say the right things, but something in your spirit will feel uneasy. Something won't sit right. That's not fear. That's God warning you. Don't silence that voice. Don't override that signal, because when you ignore God's warning signs, you invite unnecessary pain. But when you obey, even when it hurts, you make room for what is truly meant. When God wants you with someone, the connection will mature you. It will not always feel easy, but it will always feel purposeful. You will begin to grow in ways you never have. You will feel stretched, not to break you, but to build you. Because God doesn't just send someone to walk beside you. He sends someone to challenge the parts of you that need growth. The right person will call you higher. They will correct you in love. They will hold you accountable to God's standard, not just affirm your comfort. And though it may not always be pleasant, it will be necessary, because growth is proof of God's involvement. Do not idolize a person. Do not place them on a throne in your heart. That space belongs to God alone. Even when God sends the right person, they are not your source. They are not your provider. They are not your Savior. They are a blessing, but never the foundation. God remains your anchor. And the moment you place more trust in a person than in God, you will feel the shaking. You will feel the misalignment, because no human being is meant to carry the weight of your soul. Only God can. You must walk into divine connections with open eyes and a guarded heart, not closed off but discerning. Let God lead the way. Let Him confirm, not just once but over and over again, through peace, consistency, and clarity. If you have to constantly convince yourself it's from God, it probably isn't. When God moves, He brings assurance. He brings light into dark places. He brings order to chaos. And what He unites, no confusion can unravel. Don't allow loneliness to be louder than God's wisdom. Loneliness is temporary, but a decision made outside of God's will can cost you years of peace. It can lead you into battles you were never meant to fight. That's why you must silence the noise of the world and anchor your soul in what God is whispering. Sometimes His voice is quiet, not because He's absent, but because He's testing your willingness to still seek Him when the answer isn't instant. And when you show God that your trust doesn't waver in silence, He rewards that faith with clarity. Remember, God doesn't show you someone's soul through their appearance. He reveals it through their patterns. Pay attention. Are they stable? Are they consistent? Are they guided by principles or by emotions? Are they bringing you closer to God or closer to compromise? These questions are not rooted in fear, they're rooted in wisdom, because what you join your life to will either lift you or limit you. And when God wants you with someone, that person will be a builder, not a burden, a multiplier, not a divider, a carrier of peace, not confusion. Sometimes the connection will come after you've been broken, after you've healed from battles that left you breathless, and you'll wonder why God waited so long. But the truth is, He was waiting for the version of you that is whole, not wounded. Because if He sent the right person when you were still carrying the residue of your past, you would sabotage what He intended to bless. So He waited. He protected you. He held back the blessing until you were ready to receive it with wisdom and walk in it with responsibility. And don't mistake quiet seasons for empty seasons. When God is silent, He is still working. When nothing seems to be moving, trust that He is positioning everything behind the scenes. He is aligning schedules. He is softening hearts. He is removing obstacles. And when everything is ready, He will bring that person into your life in such a way that you will know only God could have done this. The timing, the setting, the mutual recognition, it will be divine. Not because it's dramatic, but because it's drenched in God's fingerprints. This is not about romantic feelings alone. This is about divine purpose. When God joins you to someone, your missions will intertwine. Your spiritual paths will align. Your goals will not compete. They will complement. You will build something that outlives your emotions, something that stands as a testimony of obedience, faith, and surrender. And when people see your union, they will not just see two people in love. They will see what God can do when two souls walk in agreement under His hand. You are not forgotten. You are not unseen. God is faithful to complete what He begins. And if He has whispered to your spirit that He has someone for you, trust Him. Keep building your character. Keep walking in truth. Keep praying with boldness. Keep releasing what doesn't belong, because when the appointed time comes, the door will open. Not through your striving, but through your submission. When God brings someone into your life, you won't have to compete for their attention. You won't have to chase their affection. God does not write stories of desperation. He writes stories of destiny. He does not pair a confusion with purpose. He does not place peace in the arms of chaos. What He brings will be whole. What He sends will bring stillness to your spirit, not storms. And when He writes the story, you won't have to add to it. You'll just have to walk in it with gratitude and grace. And if you are currently walking alone, know this: solitude with God is never wasted. In this season, He is shaping you. He is strengthening you. He is removing what could destroy you. He is pruning your character so that when He places you beside someone, you will not just survive, you will thrive. You will not just exist in their life, you will enhance it, because you have been molded by the hands of the one who sees the end from the beginning. When God designs a connection, He doesn't look at surface compatibility. He examines the soul. He sees the unseen. He knows what your future holds and what kind of spirit needs to walk beside you. That is why you must stop looking for someone who simply looks the part and start seeking someone who is aligned with the purpose God placed within you. The person who is meant to walk with you will not only share your laughter, they will share your burdens. They will not just celebrate your victories, they will kneel beside you in your battles. Because when it is God ordained, it is not built on convenience, it is built on covenant. And understand this, true union under God requires spiritual maturity. You cannot carry God's plan with an immature heart. You cannot protect what is sacred with a careless mindset. The person God joins you with is not just for your pleasure. They are part of your spiritual assignment. You will be called to protect them in prayer. You will be required to walk in patience, in honor, in selflessness. And if your heart is still led by impulse or entitlement, then God will continue refining you. He will not place precious things into unprepared hands. He is too wise. He is too intentional. And His timing is too perfect to be rushed. Sometimes God will bring someone into your life quietly, without noise or grand announcements. There won't be fireworks. There won't be signs in the sky. But there will be a divine stillness in your spirit. There will be a quiet confirmation that this is right, that this is safe, that this is sacred, that this is not something you need to fight for, but something you need to steward. That is the fingerprint of God. When the soul rests, not because everything is perfect, but because the presence of God surrounds the connection like a shield. And do not forget, God protects what He ordains. He shields it from premature exposure. He hides it from eyes that would envy it or try to destroy it. That's why for a time you may feel unseen. That's why the one meant for you may be invisible to the crowd. God is hiding you both, not to delay joy, but to protect destiny. What is pure must be preserved. What is holy must be shielded. And when the right moment arrives, He will reveal what He has kept covered. And the world will see what heaven already approved. If you're struggling with disappointment from the past, if someone you thought was the one walked away, hear this. If it was from God, it would not have ended in confusion. If it was from God, it would not have taken you away from prayer, peace, and purpose. When God joins two people, He does not pull them away from His presence. He pulls them deeper into it. So thank God for the ones who walked away. Thank Him for every door that closed. You may not understand it now, but God sees every motive. He hears every conversation spoken behind closed doors. And when He removes someone, it is not to break you. It is to build you for what's ahead. And what is ahead requires focus. It requires strength. It requires the kind of faith that trusts God even when your eyes don't see a thing moving. Because often the greatest moves of God happen in silence. He works in the soil, beneath the surface, in the unseen. He softens hearts. He reroutes paths. He tears down false connections and clears the clutter so that your spirit can recognize what is real. And when the time is ripe, when both your soul and theirs are prepared, God will cause your paths to cross in a way that not even the wisest among you could have orchestrated. This is why you must stay faithful, not just in your actions, but in your thoughts, in your posture, in your private moments of prayer. You are not waiting in vain. You are being prepared. You are being sharpened. You are being equipped for something that will outlive your emotions. Do not let the temporary noise of culture distract you from the eternal wisdom of God. The world may tell you to settle. The world may tempt you to chase validation. But God calls you to wait, not because you're being punished, but because He is saving you from less than what He designed. And when God brings you the person He has prepared for you, it will feel like divine alignment, not because everything will be easy, but because everything will make sense. You will begin to understand why it didn't work with anyone else. You will see the purpose behind the pain, the meaning behind the waiting. God's design will not require you to abandon who you are. It will allow you to grow into who you were always meant to be. It will not crush your spirit. It will activate your calling. You will not feel smaller in their presence. You will feel strengthened, supported, and seen. This is how God moves, not with confusion, but with clarity, not with rush, but with revelation. He opens your eyes to see through the flesh and into the spirit. And when He speaks, He does not stutter. His confirmations are not vague, they are undeniable. You will find yourself in prayer, not because you are begging for clarity, but because you are overwhelmed with gratitude. Because when God joins you with someone, it's not just a relationship, it's a reflection of His wisdom, His timing, His mercy. Do not be fooled by impatience. Impatience will lead you to the wrong arms. It will make you justify what your spirit already knows is not from God. It will make you settle for potential instead of purpose. But when you truly trust God, you don't just wait, you prepare. You build. You become the kind of person who can receive what you've been praying for. Because the blessing is not just in the person, it is in what that person brings out of you. A divine connection should make you more prayerful, more disciplined, more grateful, more aligned with God. And when that kind of person enters your life, sent not by your emotions, but by God, you will notice the difference. You won't feel the need to perform. You won't be afraid of losing them. You won't be tormented by doubt, because they were never yours to keep. They were God's to give. And what God gives, He sustains. What He ordains, He surrounds with peace. You will not have to compromise to keep them. You will not have to abandon your values to stay close. Instead, you will rise. Both of you will rise in strength, in purpose, in truth. When God joins your path with someone, it is not for shallow companionship, it is for divine fulfillment. It is not simply to appease your longing for partnership, but to activate the deeper purpose within your soul. And if you are not grounded in that understanding, you will reduce what is sacred to what is seasonal. You will mishandle what is holy. That is why God sometimes holds back what you desire, because He loves you too much to give you something you'll destroy with immaturity. He waits until your character can protect what your prayers have requested. He sees beyond the surface. He sees beyond the smile, beyond the words, beyond the physical. God looks at the spirit. He examines the motives. He weighs the intentions. And before He allows someone to walk hand in hand with you into your future, He evaluates their ability to carry the weight of your destiny. Because who you walk with will either multiply your light or drain your fire. The wrong person can silence the voice God placed within you, but the right one will fan the flame. The right one will speak life when you're weary and remind you of who you are when doubt tries to whisper lies. When it's from God, they won't just understand your calling, they will honor it. And it will never require deception. It will never require you to pretend, to shrink, to twist yourself into someone else. What God sends will meet you at your most authentic place. You will be fully seen and fully safe. And they will not come to take, they will come to give. Not because they want to gain control, but because God has taught them how to pour without expecting, how to lead without dominating, how to love without conditions. That's the fruit of someone who's been with God. That's the mark of a heart that's been surrendered, refined, and matured by the hands of the Almighty. But you must stop seeking validation from broken places. You must stop trying to convince people to see what only God can reveal. When God intends for someone to recognize you, He will open their eyes. He will awaken their spirit. You won't have to force clarity. You won't have to beg for love. You won't have to fight for position in someone's life. God does not assign confusion to His promises. He assigns peace. And peace is not passive. It is powerful. It is the quiet assurance that though you may not have all the answers, you are exactly where you are meant to be. Some of you have cried at night, asking God why your heart has been delayed, why your soul is wandered in a season of waiting. But what you must realize is that waiting is not wasting. Waiting is preparation. Waiting is purification. Waiting is sacred. It is in the waiting that God removes what is weak and replaces it with wisdom. It is in the waiting that you stop needing a person to feel whole and begin needing only God to feel complete. Because when you enter into a union still broken, you will place weight on the other person to fix what only God can heal. And that is a burden no one was built to carry. Let your healing be your preparation. Let your solitude be your sanctuary. Don't rush the process. God is doing something behind the scenes that your eyes cannot see. The delay is not your enemy, it is your protection. And when it finally happens, when the pieces come together, when the prayers collide with reality, you will understand that the wait was worth every silent night, because what God builds is eternal. What God joins is covered. What God writes cannot be erased by time, distance, or distraction. Those two things cannot be erased. This is, and don't be surprised when the enemy tries to attack what God is preparing. The enemy is not threatened by those who are connected by emotions. He's threatened by those who are connected by obedience. The enemy is terrified of unions that are born through prayer, sustained by discipline, and destined for purpose. That is why distractions come when you're closest to breakthrough. That is why false opportunities arise when you've just started to trust. But do not lose focus. Do not let temptation pull you from truth. Stay rooted in God. Stay watchful. Stay discerning. Because what He is preparing is not only for your joy, it's for His glory. When God puts His hand on a relationship, it becomes more than two people in love. It becomes a divine force, a shield against darkness, a testimony of faith, a vessel of peace. That kind of bond does not crumble under pressure, because its strength is not drawn from man. It is drawn from God Himself. And when both souls are submitted, when both hearts are yielded, they move together like a storm of light through a world of shadows. They build, they bless, they bear fruit that others can taste and see that God is real, that God still answers, that God still joins souls in perfect time. You must ask yourself, am I becoming the person I'm praying for? Am I walking in the kind of discipline I desire in another? Am I prepared to lead in patience, to follow in humility, to sacrifice without recognition, to forgive before apology? Because love sent by God is not soft. It is strong. It is forged in truth. It endures testing. And if you're not prepared to protect what is sacred, then you are not yet ready to receive what is divine. But when your heart is refined, when your mind is sober, When your spirit is humble, then the blessing can come. Then the door can open. And when it does, there will be no doubt. There will be no striving, no performance. The love will be quiet and steady, not loud and frantic. It will be sacred, not showy. It will honor your boundaries, not cross them. It will protect your spirit, not manipulate your emotions. Because it is not driven by flesh. It is driven by truth. It is not ruled by fear. It is ruled by peace. That is the difference between a relationship that is convenient and a relationship that is called. When God wants you with someone, the entire rhythm of your life will begin to align. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. Conversations will carry depth. Moments will carry weight. Even the hard days will carry grace, because when it's from God, there is purpose in the pain and mercy in the trial. You won't walk this road alone. You will travel together, shoulder to shoulder, not in front, not trailing behind, equally strong, equally faithful, equally surrendered to the design of the one who joined you. So I urge you, ready yourself not only for the blessing, but for the duty that accompanies it. Get ready to lead, to hear, to pray, to stay. Get ready to guard what God entrusts to you, not with force, but with the Spirit. Remain in prayer, remain humble, and keep watch, for the hour is close. When the blessing comes, may your recognition be measured not by its appearance, but by how it draws your heart nearer to God. And when it arrives, remember the giver. For this union is not the finish line. It is the doorway to a higher call God has been arranging since the dawn of time. Have you ever walked through a season where every part of you wanted to argue, to defend, to prove your point, yet God whispered, "Be silent," not because you lost the battle, but because He was preparing to move in such a powerful way that your words would only interfere? This silence is not defeat. It is the pause before the downpour of blessings. It is the holy quiet that comes just before a miracle so undeniable it will speak louder than anything your voice could declare. God does not require noise. What He requires is your trust. And sometimes the greatest proclamation of faith is to remain silent. Be still. That is the decree that flows not from man, but from the throne of heaven itself. Be still, not because you lack strength, not because you doubt, not because you lack direction, but because in the silence, God is accomplishing what words could never explain. There is a moment in every believer's life when God says, "Be quiet, wait, trust. Don't announce it, don't fight it, just be silent until I bring the miracle." And in that moment, your obedience in silence becomes your loudest declaration of faith. You see, the world teaches us to speak up, to defend ourselves, to react, to make our voices heard. But God works differently. God says, "I will fight for you. You need only to be still." When God is preparing a miracle, He often demands your silence. Why? Because some blessings are too sacred to be exposed to human interference. Because what God is about to do in your life will not require your explanation, your announcement, or your defense. It will speak for itself. There are moments when the storm rages and you want to shout your pain. You want to cry out your confusion. You want to scream your disappointment. But God whispers, "Hush, hold your peace. I am working behind the curtain." And those who obey, those who choose silence in the middle of chaos, are the ones who witness the glory of God in full measure. Because silence is not weakness, silence is reverence, silence is trust. Silence is the language of those who know that God is still on the throne. Think of it. When a seed is planted in the earth, no sound is heard. No trumpet sounds when the roots take hold. No announcement is made when the first sprout pushes through the soil. But beneath the silence, something is growing, something is shifting, something is becoming. So it is with your life. While the world sees stillness, God sees preparation. While others see nothing, God is nurturing a miracle beneath the surface of your silence. You must understand, when God tells you to be silent, it is not to punish you, but to protect what He is birthing in you. There are spiritual enemies who feed on your words. There are people in your life who would destroy your dream if they heard even a whisper of it. That's why God silences you, not to stop your destiny, but to preserve it. Some miracles require privacy. Some victories must begin in the quiet place, where only God sees and only God knows. There is a holy power in being silent when everything inside you wants to speak. When they lie about you, God says, "Be silent." When they misunderstand your heart, God says, "Be silent." When they walk away and you're tempted to chase after them, God says, "Be silent." Because your silence is not the end of the story, it is the opening act of something glorious. You are not losing when you are quiet. You are building. You are trusting. You are aligning with the rhythm of heaven, where stillness speaks louder than words. Let them think what they want. Let them draw their conclusions. Let them assume. You do not need to defend yourself when God is your defender. You do not need to argue when the truth will outlive the lie. You do not need to explain when God is about to make it clear. Some miracles are so divine, so sacred, so overwhelming that the only right response is to step back and let God speak through the outcome. Too many people miss their miracle because they couldn't stay silent long enough to see it unfold. They opened their mouth and exposed what God meant to hide. They told people who weren't meant to understand. They defended themselves when God was already preparing their vindication. But not you. You will be different. You will wait in silence because you trust the God who does not sleep, who does not forget, who does not fail. You see, silence is not passive. It is powerful. Silence does not mean nothing is happening. It means everything is happening. But under divine management, the most powerful moments in your life may come not when you shout, but when you are silent and let God move. Your silence becomes a sanctuary. It becomes a testimony. It becomes a holy space where God says, "Now I can work without interference." When God tells you to be silent, He is inviting you into a sacred partnership. He's saying, "Let me speak for you. Let me make the way. Let me shut the mouths of the lions. Let me silence your accusers. Let me show them what I can do with a vessel that knows how to wait in stillness." Because those who wait in silence are those who rise in strength. They don't waste energy trying to prove anything. They don't exhaust themselves explaining to people who were never meant to understand. They conserve their faith. They protect their promise. They guard their peace. And yes, it's hard. It's hard when you're misunderstood. It's hard when people walk away. It's hard when your name is dragged through the mud, and all you want to do is shout the truth. But God is not asking you to shout. He's asking you to trust. He's asking you to let Him reveal the truth, because when God vindicates you, it will be undeniable. When God blesses you, even your enemies will have to admit that something divine has taken place. So do not fear the silence. Do not curse the quiet season. That silence is sacred. It is the pause before the breakthrough. It is the breath before the birth. It is the stillness before the storm breaks in your favor. Some of the loudest victories begin in absolute silence. When you learn to be silent in faith, you allow God to speak in power. There are seasons in your life when you must walk with sealed lips and open hands. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you trust the one who says it all. God does not need your explanations. He does not need your arguments. What He needs is your surrender. And silence is a form of surrender. Silence says, I could speak, but I choose to trust. Silence says, I could fight, but I choose to believe. Silence says, I could explain, but I choose to wait on God. And God honors that kind of faith. He honors that kind of discipline because He knows the power that is coming. He knows the miracle that is on the way. And when it comes, it will speak volume. The very people who doubted you will have no choice but to watch. The very situations that tried to break you will become the foundation of your testimony. But only if you can stay silent long enough to see it through. The silence is not empty. It is full of God's movement. It is full of angels being dispatched. It is full of closed doors being unlocked. It is full of favor that is being arranged. It is full of the impossible bending to the will of the Almighty. But if you speak too soon, you disrupt the flow. If you act too early, you miss the perfect timing. If you try to handle it yourself, you might delay what was meant to come quickly. So be silent, not in fear, but in faith, not in weakness, but in wisdom, not in defeat, but in divine expectation, because something is coming, something is shifting, something is being orchestrated that you couldn't plan even if you tried. But it requires your stillness. It requires your restraint. It requires your ability to sit in the presence of God and let Him do what only He can do. Some of you have been praying for something big, something life-changing, and God heard you. But now He's saying, let me work. Let me finish what I started. Stay quiet while I build the miracle. Your job is not to announce it. Your job is to prepare for it. Your job is to stay in the secret place, holding on to your peace, keeping your mouth shut and your heart open. Because the more silent you become, the louder God will speak through the outcome. The more you resist the urge to speak prematurely, the more glorious the testimony will be when the time is right. And when it happens, it will not require an introduction. The miracle will be its own announcement. The blessing will be its own defense. The power of God will be so evident that even the doubters will fall silent. You do not have to fight for what God has already promised you. You do not have to scream for what God has already secured. Be silent and let the evidence speak. Be silent and let the harvest reveal what was planted in secret. Be silent and let God show the world who He has been shaping you to become. Because the truth is, the ones who are the most powerful in the kingdom are not the loudest. They are the most obedient. They know when to speak and when to be silent. They understand the rhythm of God's timing. And when you learn that rhythm, you will walk in a peace that cannot be shaken and a power that cannot be stopped. So do not despise the silence. Do not rush out of it. Embrace it. Honor it. Because in that silence, God is building something eternal. In that stillness, God is preparing something unshakable. And when the appointed time comes, your silence will break into celebration. Your stillness will explode into blessing. Your waiting will be rewarded with wonders. When God calls you to silence, He is not pushing you away. He is drawing you in. He is inviting you into a deeper intimacy, a divine closeness, where the noise of the world fades and only His whisper remains. In that sacred silence, your soul becomes attuned to things that others cannot perceive. Your ears begin to hear not the opinions of men, but the directions of heaven. And in that silence, your spirit becomes strong, not through speaking, but through listening. Because there are revelations that only come when the mouth is shut and the heart is wide open to God alone. God does not rush. His power is not hurried. His timing is not dictated by your anxiety. God moves with purpose, with precision, and with perfect wisdom. And sometimes the silence is His signal that He is orchestrating something far beyond your current understanding. While you're worried about how things appear on the surface, God is working deep underground, aligning circumstances, shifting hearts, and preparing the moment when the curtain will rise and His glory will be revealed. But until then, He tells you to hold your tongue, not because you are voiceless, but because your voice is being preserved for a greater proclamation. There is strength in restraint. There is victory in waiting. God honors the one who trusts His pace more than their emotions. When you feel surrounded, when you feel overlooked, when your spirit is weary from battles that no one sees, do not break your silence with fear or frustration. Speak only in prayer. Speak only in faith. Let your soul cry out to God in the quiet, not in the noise of panic. Because God hears what no human ear can catch. He listens to the silent prayers, the ones that have no words, only groans, tears, and unspoken hopes. Do you know why God wants you to be silent before the miracle? Because words have power. And in moments of testing, careless words can sabotage divine timing. You might confess doubt when you should be declaring trust. You might invite negativity when you were meant to guard your atmosphere. You might release fear into your environment when faith was supposed to saturate the room. That's why silence is not just avoidance. It is spiritual discipline. It is strategic stillness. It is guarding the atmosphere of your miracle. God is not asking you to pretend everything is fine. He's asking you to put your trust in the unseen. He's asking you to stop managing the outcome and start surrendering to His authority. Because your silence is not ignorance, it is recognition. Recognition that God is wiser than your plans. Recognition that your insight is limited, but His vision is eternal. And when you choose to be silent, you are proclaiming with your soul, I don't need to know everything. I only need to trust the one who does. There are sacred moments in life when your silence becomes your shield. When words would only ignite warfare that God never meant for you to fight. When explanations would only feed curiosity that God never intended for others to have. Some things are meant to be carried in silence because they are too holy to be mishandled by careless ears. God is saying, let me conceal you for now. Let me preserve this for the right time. And if you obey, if you stay silent when everything in you wants to speak, you will witness a miracle that no human power could manufacture. Silence is not a pause in your story. It is part of the plot. It is a page being written with invisible ink, soon to be revealed under the light of God's timing. You may not see it now, but silence is sacred soil. It is where your roots grow deep, your character is refined, and your spirit is anchored. When God keeps you quiet, it is not rejection, it is preparation. You are being forged in the fire of faith. You are being trained to carry glory that cannot be tainted by the noise of this world. Don't confuse silence with stagnation. Just because you don't see movement doesn't mean there isn't progress. God does some of His most powerful work in the dark, in the quiet, in the unseen. Look at the sky. It moves in silence. The earth rotates without a sound. The heart beats without shouting. The most essential forces in life operate without noise. So it is with God. His greatest acts often come wrapped in silence until the moment they explode into undeniable reality. God may silence you not to hold you back, but to push you forward without distraction. He may be keeping you quiet so He can shield your vision, protect your growth, and prepare your breakthrough in a chamber of stillness. Sometimes the silence is your ark, the place where you are sealed off from the flood of confusion and opinion. God shuts the door not to isolate you, but to preserve you. And when the rain stops and the waters recede, you will step out into new territory, refreshed, renewed, and ready. God is not in the business of empty silences. Every quiet season has a divine purpose. Every unanswered question, every restrained word, every withheld explanation, all serve a greater plan. You may not understand it today, but one day when the miracle unfolds, you will look back and thank God that He taught you to keep your peace. Because if you had spoken too soon, if you had exposed the vision too early, if you had tried to explain what only heaven could interpret, you might have delayed what was destined to be yours. You must understand God is not only working in your situation, He is working in you. The silence is molding you. It is teaching you the strength of stillness, the courage of surrender, the wisdom of restraint. You are learning that not everything deserves your reaction. Not every situation requires your words. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing and let God be the one who responds. Even when they question your silence, even when they mock your stillness, even when they pressure you to speak, stay grounded. Trust that God sees what others don't. Trust that He is building a testimony that will require no introduction. Trust that what He has promised in the quiet will come to pass in the light. And when it does, those who laughed at your silence will be silenced by your results. Let your quiet confidence in God become your shield. Walk through the storm with peace. Let the winds rage. Let the doubters speak. Let the noise rise. None of it will move you, because you are anchored in the presence of the Almighty. You don't need to shout when heaven is already roaring in your defense. You don't need to prove yourself when God is the author of your reputation. In time, the silence will end. In time, the voice of God will thunder. In time, the miracle will manifest. And when it does, your obedience will have been the seed that unlocked it. So hold fast. Don't break the silence just to satisfy the flesh. Don't disrupt the process just to ease your emotions. There is a reward for those who wait quietly, faithfully, fully surrendered to the will of God. When the appointed time arrives, your silence will turn to song. Your stillness will erupt into strength. Your private trust will produce public breakthrough, and all will know it was not your words that brought the victory. It was your surrender. It was your obedience. It was your willingness to be silent, even when silence was misunderstood. There is a time when silence becomes your shield, not just from the chaos around you, but from the traps the enemy sets ahead of you. The enemy thrives on your reactions. He listens closely to your panic, feeds on your impatience, and seeks to twist your words against you. But when you are silent, truly silent, in the presence of God, you strip the enemy of his weapon. You confuse the camp of darkness because they cannot figure out what you are thinking, what you are planning, or what you are expecting. Silence frustrates the enemy because it means you're no longer reacting, you're waiting. You're no longer trying to control, you're surrendered. And when you surrender to God, No force on earth or in the unseen world can stop what He has ordained. There is a stillness that does not come from laziness, but from boldness. It is the stillness of the one who knows. I've placed it in God's hands, and I will not pick it back up. There is strength in sitting down when everything in you wants to rush ahead. There is wisdom in keeping quiet when everything in your flesh wants to scream. And there is power in trusting that the one who formed the stars is perfectly capable of handling the details of your life. God is not seeking those who panic in the waiting. He is seeking those who trust in the pause. Do you know why God tells you to be silent before the miracle? Because He wants you to recognize that He alone is the source. Not your words, not your wisdom, not your networking, not your charisma, only God. He wants your testimony to be free from contamination, free from pride, free from the fingerprints of man, that when the blessing comes, it will be undeniably marked by the power and presence of God, and no one else will be able to take the credit. The silence is not a punishment, it is a purification. It is the place where your motives are refined, where your desires are tested, where your heart is aligned with God's will and not your own. In the silence, you are stripped of distractions, illusions, and pride. You are brought face to face with the reality that no matter how loud the world gets, the only voice that truly matters is the voice of God. Some people cannot handle silence because they are addicted to noise. They seek validation from people. They chase applause. They need someone always agreeing with them to feel right. But when God takes you into the silent place, He severs your dependence on external affirmation. He detaches your peace from people's approval. He teaches you to live off of His voice alone. And that kind of transformation cannot be bought, cannot be borrowed, cannot be imitated. It can only be learned in the stillness with God. You see, when you stay silent, you are not just avoiding speaking, you are tuning in. Tuning in to hear the instructions that only come in stillness. Because there are assignments that God will only whisper, not shout. There are directions He gives only to the soul that is quiet enough to receive them. If your life is filled with constant noise, constant venting, explaining, overthinking, you may miss the subtle nudge of God that shifts everything. But in silence, you become sensitive. You begin to discern what others overlook. You begin to walk not by reaction, but by revelation. And here's the truth. Not everyone is meant to understand what God is doing in your life. Some things are so holy, so delicate, that even sharing them too soon can cause spiritual damage. There is a reason God says, "Conceal a matter until the time is ripe." Your silence becomes a covering for the sacred. When you keep quiet, you preserve the oil. You protect the process. You shield the seed until it becomes fruit. Do not let the pressure of others force your voice before God gives you permission to speak. Let the world assume, let them question, let them laugh, because in the end it won't be your argument that convinces them. It will be the undeniable manifestation of what God has done. There is coming a moment, if you remain faithful, when your silence will burst into a result so clear, even your critics will fall silent. That is the power of letting God handle what your mouth wants to manage. And in that stillness, your relationship with God deepens. You begin to experience not just what He does, but who He is. You no longer serve God just for the miracles. You serve Him because you trust His character even when there is no evidence around you. That's where maturity begins. Not when you praise God after the blessing, but when you can be silent before the blessing, because you know He is working even when you see nothing. Silence allows God to expose what cannot be seen in the noise. Sometimes it is in your quietest season that the deepest healing takes place. You begin to confront yourself. You realize how much you were trying to force, how often you were trying to fix what only God can redeem. You stop talking to everyone else and finally start talking to God in a way that is raw, real, and reverent. And that silence becomes your secret weapon. You step into every space with a steady calm because the tears have already been poured out in the hidden place. You carry yourself with assurance, not because your world is flawless, but because you've released the need to control it. You let God be who He is. And when you surrender like that, His peace takes its seat in your heart. Even when storms rage around you, there's no need to defend what God is constructing. No need to broadcast what He is preparing. Simply remain aligned, remain still, and remain faithful. Quiet consistency carries more weight than loud declarations. When you honor God in the unseen waiting, you are planting seeds for a harvest no enemy can touch. And the time will come when every unspoken prayer, every hidden tear, every promise you clung to, every whisper in the dark will be answered, not with explanations, but with undeniable evidence. People won't have to ask what happened. They'll see what God did. The doors will open, the favor will fall, the healing will manifest, the opportunity will arise, and they will know it was God and only God. There is a sacred mystery in the way God works that defies human logic. We live in a world obsessed with instant results, constant communication, and quick validation. But God is not bound by the noise of the world. He is drawn to the stillness of trust. While the world shouts for answers, God whispers to the soul that waits in silence. While others panic in uncertainty, those who know God walk quietly, confidently through the valley, knowing that silence in the hands of God is never empty. It is preparation. It is strategy. It is power wrapped in quiet surrender. Silence is not an absence of faith. It is the very evidence of it. When you can keep quiet in the middle of the storm, when you can resist the urge to speak before God has finished what He's doing, when you can stand in the middle of delay without doubting His presence, you are walking in a dimension of spiritual maturity that few ever reach. Because silence is not just the absence of speech. It is the fullness of trust. It is the soul saying, God, even if I don't understand it, I believe you are good. Even if I don't see the way, I know you are leading. Even if I don't hear the answer, I know you have already spoken it into existence. In this world, we are trained to announce every step, to promote every decision, to gather approval from others before we even begin. But when God places a vision inside you, He often requires that you conceal it until it has matured. You are not hiding it out of fear. You are guarding it out of honor. You are protecting what is holy from being handled by what is carnal. Because when something is in seed form, it is vulnerable. And God says, let me water it in silence. Let me grow it in secret. Let me prepare the soil before you shout to the world what I've begun in you. When you remain silent, you are not disengaged. You are aligning yourself with a deeper current. You are stepping into the divine rhythm of patience and purpose. You are no longer reacting to the noise of the world. You are moving to the heartbeat of heaven. And when you move with God, you do not need to rush. You do not need to explain. You do not need to convince. Time itself becomes your ally, because time in God's hand becomes a servant to your destiny. Some of you are being tested in the waiting room of silence. You are sitting between the promise and the fulfillment. And everything in your flesh wants to speak. You want to justify yourself. You want to rush the outcome. You want to declare what hasn't yet manifested. But hear this, with the authority of spiritual truth. If you wait upon God in silence, you will be preserved, protected, and positioned in ways that the loud and impulsive will never understand. Let them question your stillness. Let them misinterpret your quietness. Let them assume you have nothing to say, because soon the fruit will speak. Soon the outcome will roar louder than anything you could have said. And in that moment, your silence will be vindicated. Because it was not silence out of weakness, it was silence out of obedience. It was not fear, it was reverence. You were not mute, you were listening. And the one who listens in silence is the one who will hear the secrets of heaven. God does not reveal His deepest plans in the clamor of the crowd. He speaks in the stillness to the one who turns off the noise, who shuts the door, who quiets the soul before Him and says, God, I don't need the world's noise. I need your guidance. That is the soul God will fill. That is the life God will use. That is the vessel God will pour out His glory upon. You must learn to trust that silence is not avoidance. It is a vessel that holds the promises, the instructions, the whispers of God that carry more weight than the loudest human voice. When God instructed His chosen ones to walk around the city walls without speaking a word, it was not for lack of courage. It was a divine strategy, because sometimes the miracle does not come when you shout. It comes when you are willing to walk in silence, trusting that the command of God is greater than your need to be understood. There are moments in your life when the silence will be your shield from destruction. If you speak too soon, you may reveal the blueprint to those who will sabotage it. If you share too early, you may allow doubt to enter through the voice of others. But if you wait, if you hold your peace, if you stay silent under God's covering, He will bring you out in such glory, such undeniable victory that no words will be needed. The miracle will declare its own origin. The blessing will testify of its source. Do not underestimate the value of unseen growth. Do not despise the quiet season. Do not curse the days when it seems nothing is happening, because in the hands of God, the invisible becomes invincible. In His time, the hidden becomes holy. What you sow in silence, you will reap in glory. What you carry in secret, you will birth in power. But only if you trust the process enough to keep your mouth closed and your heart open. God is not a God of confusion. He is a God of perfect order. And part of that order is teaching His people when to speak and when to be silent. The world may never understand the strength it takes to be still. They won't see the tears you cry behind closed doors, the prayers you whisper into your pillow, the trust you carry when nothing makes sense. But God sees, and He honors that kind of faith. He responds to that kind of discipline. He is moved by the soul that says, God, I will not try to control what only you can complete. I will stay silent until the miracle speaks. And when it does, it will shake the foundations. It will silence the critics. It will shift the atmosphere. Because a miracle birthed in silence carries the fingerprint of God in ways that nothing else can. It cannot be explained. It cannot be denied. It cannot be touched by human arrogance. It is pure. It is holy. It is divine. There comes a time in every soul's journey where the only answer God gives is silence. And that silence is not absence. It is divine intention. It is not neglect. It is sacred design. Because silence is where God pulls you out of the noise, the distractions, the false securities of this world, and draws you into the secret chamber of trust. He is not ignoring you, He is refining you. He is not punishing you, He is preparing you. In that quiet space where it seems nothing is moving, nothing is changing, nothing is speaking, God is laying the foundation for something that will shake everything around you when it comes to pass. Silence is not avoidance. It is an altar. It is where pride dies. It is where ego is crushed. It is where dependence on self is dismantled. It is where you stop asking God to bless your timing and start surrendering to His. And when you reach that place, when you no longer need the reassurance of constant signs, when you no longer crave the validation of people's approval, then God knows you are ready. Ready not just to receive the miracle, but to carry it, protect it, and steward it with reverence and humility. God's silence is never without purpose. It teaches your spirit how to mature. It trains your inner man to see beyond the natural. While others are reacting to what they can see and hear, you are walking by something higher, by conviction, by faith, by an unshakable knowing that the Creator of all things is working behind the scenes. You are not blind. You are focused. You are not lost. You are being led through a path that no eye has seen and no ear has heard. And for that kind of journey, silence is not just required, it is holy. God sometimes commands silence, because speaking too soon would contaminate what is sacred. He knows that premature speech opens the door to human interference. Sometimes even well-meaning people can speak fear, doubt, or confusion into something that was never meant for their ears. That is why God will seal your lips, not as a punishment, but as protection. He will keep your vision hidden in the womb of time until it's ready to be birthed in power. And when that moment comes, it will arrive not with the noise of men, but with the thunder of heaven. The silence is a spiritual cocoon. It's where transformation takes place. The caterpillar doesn't announce to the world what it's becoming. It simply withdraws. Silence is the noise that disappears for a time, and in that hidden place, the miraculous begins. So too, God pulls you away, covers you in silence, and begins the sacred work of changing you from the inside out. And when He finally brings you forth, you will not be the same. You will not need to explain what happened. Your presence will carry the evidence. Your peace will testify. Your victory will speak volumes. People may mock your silence. They may question your inactivity. They may misread your restraint as weakness. Let them assume. Because when you are silent by God's instruction, you are not standing still. You are standing in position. You are not being passive. You are being sharpened. And when the time is right, God will release you like an arrow straight into the target of His will. But if you move too early, if you speak too soon, if you step out before He says go, you could forfeit what was already yours. There is a divine authority that comes with obedience to God's timing. It is not loud, but it is unshakable. It does not boast, but it cannot be denied. It is the authority of one who has been tested in silence, refined in waiting, and released in perfect alignment. That kind of authority cannot be taught. It must be cultivated in the fire of surrender. And only those who walk through the valley of silence and still choose to trust God will carry it. When God tells you to be silent, He is saying, "Let me speak for you. Let me show them who you are. Let me reveal the truth. Let me bring justice. Let me shine light on what has been hidden." You do not need to rush to defend yourself. You do not need to fight every accusation. When God is involved, He will not only vindicate you, He will elevate you. And your silence will become your crown. There is something deeply powerful about refusing to speak against what God is allowing, even when it hurts, even when it seems unfair, even when the waiting is long. When you stay silent in submission rather than lashing out in frustration, you are telling God, I trust you more than I trust my own understanding. And that kind of trust moves the heart of God. It invites Him into your situation in a way that words never could. Let this truth burn into your spirit. Silence in God's hands is never wasted. Every second of your quiet obedience is building a testimony that will thunder when it is released. You may not feel it, but roots are growing. You may not see it, but foundations are being strengthened. You may not hear it, but doors are unlocking in realms you haven't even entered yet. And when the appointed time arrives, God will reveal what He was doing all along. And the silence will have been the soil that nourished the miracle. So endure the silence with courage. Embrace the stillness with reverence. Do not rush to speak just to feel in control. Do not allow your impatience to drown out the quiet voice of God. There is power in staying quiet until God gives the release. And when that release comes, it will come with undeniable evidence. It will come with favor no man can fabricate. It will come with a peace that silences every voice of doubt. Remember, even the earth had to wait in silence before light was spoken into existence. Even the night must yield in stillness before the morning breaks, and even your life must sometimes dwell in silence before the next season begins. Don't fear the quiet. Don't fight the pause. Don't resent the wait. God is not inactive. He is preparing something so complete, so holy, so divine, that it requires a stillness you must honor. So remain grounded. Let the silence do its work. Stay humble in the hidden place. Keep your spirit surrendered. Let your silence be worship. Let it be faith in its purest form, not spoken, but lived. And when God moves, and He will move, your silence will become a song. Your stillness will become strength, and your waiting will birth wonders that no words could ever fully describe. And now, beloved soul, hear this final truth with the weight it deserves. Silence is not the absence of faith, it is the highest expression of it. When you choose to close your mouth and open your heart to God's timing, you are declaring with your entire being, God, I trust you more than I trust my feelings. I believe in your plan more than I believe in what I see. That kind of faith does not tremble. It stands firm. That kind of obedience does not waver, for it waits with holy expectation. You may be in a season right now where everything seems still. The world is moving around you. People are making noise. Things are happening for others. And yet God has told you to be silent. Do not look at this season with bitterness. Do not reject the quiet moments. For in the hush of silence, God is crafting what will one day be the most powerful testimony of your life. He is shaping something within you that can only be born out of stillness. Something holy, something eternal, something untouched by human hands. So keep your peace, protect your heart, trust His timing. The very God who led you into this silence will be the same God who ushers you into the miracle. And when that miracle appears, it will need no announcement, no defense, not even your words, for it will bear the undeniable mark of God alone. Until then, remain still. Remain steadfast. Remain quiet. Because this silence is not a conclusion. It is a holy beginning. And when God moves, every eye will see. It was never your effort, but His power. Never your labor, but His command. And the silence you carried will be revealed as the seed that opened every door.